How's it going, guys? Vaibhav here from GN Tech, and welcome to a camera comparison between the Huawei P30 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. I have them both recording from the front-facing cameras, with the P30 Pro recording at 1080p, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus recording at 4K resolution. Now, I'm quickly going to get up from my bench and give you guys an overall perspective of how both of these cameras manage to capture audio as well as video footage while walking, as well as the stabilization that both of these cameras offer. But with that being said, I'm going to move on to the primary camera specifications, followed by some photo and video samples from the primary cameras. Huawei's P30 Pro comes with a Leica quad camera setup with an RYBY sensor for better light processing compared to Samsung's new and refreshed triple camera setup on the Galaxy S10 Plus. We'll start with this first image where things already start to get interesting. There's a natural blur to the P30 Pro's image, whereas the Galaxy S10 Plus has a brighter look, which is a bit artificial considering this was a cloudy day. Turning on AI on the P30 Pro and Scene Optimizer on the Galaxy S10 Plus, there's a great deal of saturation to the colors. I think overall this tones down the brightness of the S10 Plus's sample and makes it more true to life compared to its previous sample, whereas for the P30 Pro, the AI makes the sample lose a bit of detail on the flower petal, so I think I prefer Huawei's sample without AI in this case. This situation also gave me a chance to test out the wide-angle lenses on both cameras for macros, where clearly the P30 Pro is superior. And just for completion, here's the same image with AI and Scene Optimizer mode enabled. Now we'll move to this photo. The overcast day is better captured here by the P30 Pro compared to the artificial blue sky from the Galaxy S10 Plus. The AI on the P30 Pro recognized the subject as a historical building and added meaningful edits to the image, whereas in this case for the Galaxy S10 Plus, the Scene Optimizer mode could not recognize any scene. To further test the cameras, I thought I'd take a photo here. The greens and blues from the S10 Plus give it a higher dynamic range, but you do get more shadows in the darker areas from the P30 Pro. This situation also gave me a chance to put to the test the wide-angle lenses on both phones. The S10 Plus has a wider 0.5 times lens over the 0.6 times lens on the P30 Pro for extra detail on the edges. And in terms of overall look, I prefer the S10 Plus image here. We'll test the zoom capabilities of both phones with the Dubai frame. Here's both phones in their regular modes where the choice is down to personal preference, but with AI and Scene Optimizer enabled on both phones respectively, the S10 Plus image looks better. At 2x zoom, the optical lens on the S10 Plus performs better with detail retention. Although the P30 Pro's AI helps, I think the S10 Plus is the better picture overall. The real differences start to show at 10x zoom, where the P30 Pro is clearly better with its hybrid zoom with more detail retention. There's also far less noise in the photo, and combined with AI, the result is even better. There's even a 50x mode on the P30 Pro whose results are astonishing, and to me, it looks clearer than the 10x zoom photo from the Galaxy S10 Plus. Testing portraits, I think both phones do a spectacular job. The mood of the scene and lighting is better captured on the P30 Pro, and both phones have a nice complex blur to them thanks to the depth sensors on board. The P30 Pro also gives you the flexibility of zooming out for a similar look to the S10 Plus, and compared directly, I think the subject detection and blur around it is just a hint better from the S10 Plus. As far as portraits of people go, neither camera gets the color spot on. The P30 Pro sways to the more accurate look in terms of color but makes for a much warmer image, whereas the S10 Plus artificially brightens up the image and gets the white balance a bit better. In terms of blur processing, I think the S10 Plus is superior, with the slightest discrepancies showing towards my right ear and top left on the P30 Pro, but aside that, you cannot fault these photos much more. For front photos, I think again the S10 Plus is better. The colors from the front camera are much more natural, and it gives you the option to take a wider selfie if needed. As for portraits, the S10 Plus does brighten up my face and makes it a lot more fairer, whereas the P30 Pro keeps it relatively unchanged and a bit sharper. But there's a slight discrepancy on the P30 Pro on the right of my ear, something the S10 Plus doesn't suffer from, maybe because of the dedicated depth sensor it has on the front. Regardless, to many, the bright and fair look of the S10 Plus might look better, and it even gives you the added versatility of a wide-angle lens, but the blurring in portrait mode is a bit softer on the edges. With that, we'll transition over to night photos. The clear difference between the two samples here is that the P30 Pro image has less noise. With night mode enabled, the P30 Pro is clearly the better looking photo, and that has a lot to do with the lack of a night mode function on the S10 Plus. It does have a Scene Optimizer night mode, and we'll get to testing that in a bit. Once again, the night mode photo here is better from the P30 Pro, but I used this sample to highlight some purple fringing that comes with its photos. This might be because of the phone's pre-release software, and while there's no doubt the night mode makes the image look a lot better, the purple fringing, we hope, is fixed via an update from the phone's pre-release software. With that, we'll move on to testing zoom capabilities at night. This is from the Burj Khalifa, and between these two samples, the P30 Pro has a bit more sharpness. With night mode enabled and scene optimizer mode enabled for the P30 Pro and S10 Plus respectively, I prefer the P30 Pro's sample here. This also gave me a good chance to test out the wide-angle lens on both phones, where again, the detail the P30 Pro is picking up is greater, but we're starting to see a bit more of that purple fringing. These samples are from 2x zoom from both phones, where I cannot decide which phone's doing the better job, but with night mode, I do give preference to the P30 Pro, hoping that the purple fringing is because of the pre-release software on board. At 10x zoom though, you see the power of the Huawei P30 Pro's camera, and with night mode and scene optimizer mode enabled for both the respective phones, the P30 Pro is clearly superior with the detail being captured. Even at its maximum 50x zoom, it seems like the detail it captures is a lot more than the level of detail on the S10 Plus at 10x zoom. In pitch black too, I wanted to see each phone's performance. There's a yellow tone to the P30 Pro image, which is because of the street light right above the car, which the S10 Plus negates. While the P30 Pro suffers from noise in this photo sample, the S10 Plus image remains relatively good. With night mode, there's still noise on the P30 Pro image, and in spite of it getting the colors right, I would actually prefer the S10 Plus image in this case. As for photography with flash, I think both phones do a good job, but that extra bit of detail captured on the back of the S10 Plus image gives it the edge, whereas for nighttime selfies, I prefer the warm look of the Galaxy S10 Plus. Again, having the wide-angle mode on the front is a benefit, whereas for portraits, I actually think the P30 Pro does a better job, and that might be because of its 32 megapixel front sensor, a higher resolution than the S10 Plus. But again, the S10 Plus does give you that option of a wide portrait selfie. With photo samples wrapped up, here's a look at video footage starting with 1080p. I think the footage from the S10 Plus has better dynamic range, and stabilization of footage is about the same from both phones. Each phone can take wide-angle video, where I think the P30 Pro's footage is a lot more stable and sharper. When running with the normal lens though, I think I prefer the stabilization from the S10 Plus. There's a super steady mode on the S10 Plus, which makes for much softer looking video but steadier video, especially when running. At 4K resolution, there's a greater sharpness from the Galaxy S10 Plus camera and better stabilization. Again, with both wide camera, stabilization and footage quality is better from the P30 Pro, whereas when running, stabilization is better from the S10 Plus, but this might be due to pre-release software on the P30 Pro, and with an update, this may improve. As for nighttime video at 1080p resolution, the P30 Pro has that extra bit of sharpness, but both scenes have a constant jerk to them, whereas at 4K resolution, footage and stabilization is about on par, with the P30 Pro edging it by the slightest. So that's about it for this one. I think this video will give you a comprehensive look at how both the cameras on these phones perform. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see from the P30 Pro next, and subscribe for future content. Thanks for watching, this was Vaibhav, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.